Lisa never asked for much. Not attention, not praise, just space. A quiet corner of the world where no one told her to scoot over or share your room with your sister. By the time she was 29, she had built that space herself. 3 bedrooms, 1 mortgage, 0 apologies. She didn't grow up with luxury, but she grew up with a fierce sense of earn it yourself. So she did. She worked double shifts in college, ate way too many cold noodles, took a job in IT consulting right out of school, and suddenly her life became airports, invoices, and neatly scheduled exhaustion. But it paid off. She bought a house. Not huge, not flashy, but hers. And if that sounds ordinary, then you don't understand what it means to finally own something that no one else gets to use without asking. Lisa lived alone. She liked it that way. She didn't just lock her doors, she bolted them. Deadbolt, double cylinder, keypad. Like she was expecting a home invasion every Tuesday. And no, she wasn't paranoid. She just believed in boundaries. It started with 5 words. Words so simple they didn't even make sense at first. There was screaming from your house. Lisa had just returned from Denver. 2 weeks of meetings, cold coffee, and a hotel room that smelled like mildew and regret. All she wanted was silence. But instead, there was Greg. Greg, the neighbor, mid-40s, always wearing socks with sandals like it's a lifestyle, and mowing his lawn like it's a religion. He was waiting in his driveway when Lisa came back from the grocery store. She nodded politely. Hey. He squinted at her like she was out of place in her own home. Then he said it. Is everything okay at your place? Lisa blanked. Yeah, why? Greg hesitated, rubbed the back of his neck. We've been hearing stuff from your house. What kind of stuff? This time, he didn't fidget. He looked her right in the eye. Screaming. Lisa froze, then laughed. A quick, awkward, automatic laugh. That's not possible. I've been out of town. The house was empty. Greg didn't laugh. He just kept staring at her, then slowly nodded like he was pretending to believe her. If you say so. And just like that, he turned back to his garage, leaving Lisa standing there, keys in hand, mind racing, heart suddenly heavier than her grocery bags. Lisa locked the door behind her, double bolt, keypad engaged, just like always. But something didn't feel right. At first, it was just a whisper of unease, barely there, like a draft she couldn't find, like a thought that wouldn't fully form, until she looked down. The floor. Her hardwood floor, usually dull, scuffed, and stubborn, was gleaming. Not just clean, polished, like someone had tried to impress a guest. That's when her stomach turned. She walked down the hallway. The hallway mirror sparkled, too clear, almost smug about it. Then the bedroom, her bed, was made, but not like she'd do it. Not the lazy way with one corner flobbed and a pillow missing. This was military tight. Crisp corners, fluffed pillows, blanket turned down at a perfect, impossible angle. Lisa stood there in silence, eyes scanning the crime scene of too much care. She walked into the kitchen, opened the spice drawer, paused, alphabetized, not just that in Latin. That's when she picked up the phone. Hi, Mom, she said, voice flat. Sweetheart, how was your trip? Her mom chirped, way too cheerful. Quick question, did you come by my place? A pause. Oh yes, just to water the plants. You know your orchids hate being ignored. Did you make my bed? Her mom laughed. Well, someone had to. You left it looking like a tornado hit it. Lisa exhaled slow and deep. Mom, we've talked about this. Relax, honey. I didn't touch anything else. Just vacuumed, wiped down the counters, and reorganized your spices a bit. You had 3 containers of paprika, Lisa. Lisa closed her eyes, and with them, the first crack of trust finally opened wide. There's a kind of clean that makes you feel safe. Then there's the kind of clean that makes you feel erased. Lisa sat on the edge of her perfectly made bed, and it no longer felt like hers. The scent in the room was off, too floral, too deliberate, like someone had sprayed the air with lavender to cover up the scent of guilt. The mirror, smudge-free. The counters, bare. The books on the shelf rearranged by size. Even the chaos had been scrubbed away. Lisa wasn't looking at her home. She was standing in someone else's idea of order, a version of her life she hadn't created and hadn't agreed to. She opened the fridge. Her leftovers were still there, but reorganized. Color-coded containers, labels. Even the magnet on the fridge had been moved. It no longer held the electric bill. Now it held a handwritten list that said, "Buy more almond milk." Lisa hadn't written that. She walked from room to room like a stranger at an open house. Her books, her pillows, her mugs, they were still there, but she wasn't. Whoever had touched these things had wiped her away in the process and replaced her with something shinier, calmer, less real. Lisa didn't want to go back outside, not after what she'd seen inside, but she needed answers, and Greg had more. She found him in his garage again, sorting boxes like a man preparing for winter or war. "Greg," she called. He turned, wiping sweat off his forehead. "Hey, Lisa." She hesitated, twisted her hands nervously. "Can I ask you something? Something serious?" Greg blinked, of course. "The screaming," she said quietly. "You said you heard it a few nights ago." "Yeah, and before that, too." He shifted his weight. "It wasn't normal screaming." Lisa's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "It wasn't like a fight or a party." He paused. "It sounded like pain. Like someone was hurt." Her heart dropped. And people were coming and going, different ones, men, women. One had a red shawl, a guy with a duffel bag. It was around midnight. Greg glanced toward her house. Some nights they stayed long. Other nights it was fast, but it always felt wrong. Lisa's voice trembled. "How often?" Greg looked at the ground. "It happened before, back in March, and again in June. Around the 10th, I think, the night before my daughter's dance recital." Lisa blinked hard. Her fingers clenched into fists. "I wasn't home either of those times." Greg looked up. "I figured, but it's your house. I didn't want to make assumptions." "No," Lisa whispered. "You were right to say something." And as she walked back inside, her whole body went cold, because she realized whatever was happening in her home wasn't just creepy. It was calculated, repeated, and deeply personal. Lisa didn't run. She didn't scream. She walked inside like a woman walking into a memory that doesn't belong to her, straight to her planner. She flipped through the pages, hands trembling. March 10th, Atlanta. June 2nd, Denver. Last week, Denver again. Every single date Greg mentioned, she was gone. She grabbed a pen and started circling them, then drew arrows to each business trip. Screaming, strangers, footsteps in the night, always when she was gone. Always when the house was supposed to be empty. Lisa looked around the living room. The couch was clean, the carpet vacuumed, her bookshelf rearranged. It didn't feel like her life. It felt like a rented set. Like she was just the person who kept the lights on so others could live out some twisted secret. She whispered it out loud, like testing the weight of it. "I'm not living alone." Then, after a pause, long, still full of dread, "I'm just the only one paying rent." And just like that, Lisa stopped feeling like a homeowner and started feeling like a stranger in a life someone else had quietly rewritten. Lisa had never wanted to be this kind of person, the kind who installs cameras in her own home, the kind who records silence just to prove she's not crazy. But wanting didn't matter anymore. Knowing did. She ordered 5 cameras, discreet, cloud-connected, audio-enabled, one for each key point: living room, kitchen, hallway, bedroom, front entry. She spent hours tucking them behind books into shelves above cabinets. Nothing obvious, nothing that would scream trap, just quiet little witnesses, waiting. She tested every angle, every mic, every motion alert. Then, the night before her flight to Boise, she picked up her phone and typed, "Hey Mom, heading to Boise tomorrow for a few days. Thanks for offering to water the plants, but please don't do anything else while I'm gone." No cleaning, no organizing, just the plants. Okay. A few minutes later, the reply came, "I'll try not to clean. You know how I am. Safe travels, sweetie." Lisa stared at that message for a long time. I'll try. Try? That wasn't a promise. That was a warning wrapped in a smile. She set down her phone, tightened the last camera into place, and told herself, no more guessing. No more pretending. This time, I'm going to watch. I'm going to see. That night, Lisa didn't go out, didn't explore Boise, didn't even order room service. She opened her laptop, plugged in her headphones, and sat in silence watching her own living room like a live broadcast from a crime scene that hadn't happened yet. At noon, the front door opened. It was her mother. Of course it was. Lisa leaned in. Her mom walked in, holding a cloth bag and a small watering can. She looked around, smiled to herself, and went straight to the orchids. She talked to them, out loud, said things like, "Look at you, you poor, thirsty baby. Mama's here." Lisa blinked. Her mother had always been this way, dramatic, quirky, performative. But today it felt different, felt rehearsed, like she knew someone was watching. Then came the extras. A wipe of the countertop, a flick of the dish rag across the fridge door. She straightened a crooked photo frame on the wall, moved a fruit bowl 3 inches to the left, opened a drawer, frowned, and shut it again. Nothing huge, nothing outrageous, but Lisa's chest still tightened, because this wasn't about help, it was about control disguised as caretaking. 30 minutes later, her mother left. Lisa sat back, closed the laptop, and stared at the ceiling of her hotel room. She should have felt better, should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt like she was being studied by someone who never asked for permission. It started slow. Lisa opened the feed around 8 p.m., half expecting nothing. The lights in the living room were dim, still, peaceful. Then the front door opened. Not her mother. A man entered, broad-shouldered, carrying a duffel bag. He didn't hesitate, didn't look around. He walked in like he belonged there. Lisa's breath caught. 2 minutes later, another person, a woman in a long silver braid holding a wine bottle. Then another, a man in a black tank top and boots carrying a folding chair. Then another, and another. No one knocked, no one asked, they just entered. One woman lit a candle, another dimmed the lights even more. Music started playing, something soft, low, rhythmic. Someone laughed, someone moaned. Lisa's hands were shaking. The camera in the living room showed a man wearing nothing but boxer briefs sprawled across her couch. Another woman knelt on the rug, unfolding a small black case. Inside, leather straps, shiny metal hooks, blindfolds, and something that moved when she touched it. Lisa slammed her hand over her mouth. One of them, a tall woman with dark lipstick and bare feet, walked right past the hallway bookshelf. She paused, turned her head slightly, almost looked into the camera. Not quite, but close enough to freeze Lisa in place. For 1 second, it felt like the woman could see her. And Lisa realized this wasn't just a violation, this was theater, and her house was the stage. Lisa's hands were still trembling when her phone buzzed. Zoom meeting. India team kickoff now. Crap, she had completely forgotten the time difference. It was morning for them. Just another Tuesday. But for Lisa, it was the night her house became a stranger. She minimized the camera feed, opened her work laptop, clicked join. Faces popped up on screen. Smiles. Hand waves. Charts. Bullet points. Budget slides. Lisa nodded. Lisa smiled. Lisa said, "Absolutely, let's move that to Q3." But under the table, her knee wouldn't stop bouncing. Her nails dug into her palm. Behind her eyes, a living room full of strangers. A man in boxers. A woman lighting candles. A black case full of things she didn't have words for. She blinked. She smiled again. That sounds great. Let's circle back after the rollout. Someone laughed at a mild joke. Lisa laughed too, a half second too late. She couldn't hear anything anymore, just her heartbeat, loud, fast, terrified. She wasn't in the meeting. She wasn't even in the hotel room. She was still at home, watching her world unravel, one candle at a time. 15 minutes after the Zoom call ended, Lisa's phone rang again. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped. She answered. Hello? Hi, is this Lisa Kessler? Yes. This is Officer Brennan with the Maple Glen Police Department. We're responding to a report of a gathering at your residence tonight. Are you aware of anyone currently using the property? Lisa sat up, hard. No, she said. I'm not home. I'm in Boise for work. Okay. Have you given anyone permission to access or host an event there? Lisa's voice cracked. No, just my mother. She was supposed to water the plants. That's it. A pause. Your parents are currently on site, the officer said. They claim you gave them permission to use the space. Lisa's mouth went dry. No, I didn't. I told her not to touch anything. I have that in writing. Do you still have that message? Yes, I can send it. Please do. For now, you're not in any legal trouble, but we may need a formal statement, depending on what we find. There are potential zoning and licensing concerns. We'll follow up. Click. The call ended. But Lisa didn't move. She just stared at the phone. They were in her house, right now, and they were lying. 15 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time, it was her mother. Lisa stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered. She almost didn't answer, but she did. Sweetheart, her mother began, listen, just tell the police you knew, okay? That you gave us permission. No greeting, no explanation, no apology, just damage control. Lisa's voice was quiet, too calm. What were you doing in my house? Silence. Lisa didn't let it go. I saw people. I saw what was on my rug. I saw what was on my couch, my table. What the hell was that? Her mother's voice trembled barely. We can explain, just not right now. No, Lisa cut in. Now, what were you doing? Another voice, her father, quieter, measured. Lisa, we didn't think you'd understand. Lisa's heart twisted. So you decided not to give me the chance? We thought you'd try to stop it. Lisa's voice cracked. You were right. And then she hung up. Not in rage, not in a storm, just done. She placed the phone down like it was no longer hers. And with that, the last thread holding them together snapped. 3 days passed. No calls, no texts, no apologies. Just silence. Then came the message, a Facebook notification, someone she hadn't heard from in over a decade. One of her parents' old friends, Gray Hair Yoga Quotes, a poetry blog from 2009. Subject line, I didn't know, I'm sorry. Lisa hesitated, then clicked. Lisa, I didn't know they didn't have your permission. We were told you were aware and comfortable. If it helps, here's the site they use to organize everything. And below it, a link. No name, no logo, just a sterile, ultra-private-looking URL. Lisa clicked. The page loaded. Muted tones. Sleek design. Too professional. At the top, freedom through trust. Private, curated gatherings for open-minded adults. Her throat closed. There was a calendar, a donation button, pricing tiers, a list of locations. She scrolled and stopped cold. There it was, a photo of her living room, her rug, her couch, a caption underneath, warm suburban space, discreet, secure, sound insulated. Lisa's hand trembled on the trackpad. This wasn't just betrayal. This was advertising. They hadn't just used her home. They had listed it, featured it, sold it. And right there beneath the event info, host her mother's old hippie nickname spelled backwards. Lisa wasn't breathing. Not really. She stared at the screen, eyes locked on the calendar. March 10th, June 2nd, last week. Every event listed matched her business trips. Same days, same time slots, midnight to 3 a.m., always while she was gone. She clicked on an event titled Spring Awakening, Energy Flow and Trust. There was a suggested donation of $450. Maximum capacity, 12 participants. Description, a safe and sensual space held in loving energy, hosted by a trusted member of the community. Then she saw it, at the bottom, host username, Rayla. She blinked, then read it again, Rayla. It meant nothing until she said it out loud. Then it hit her like a punch to the chest, Helen. Her mother's old nickname from her hippie days, spelled backwards. Lisa's mouth went dry. She wasn't just being used, she was being impersonated. Her home wasn't just borrowed, it was branded, promoted, sold. And she was the invisible host, the ghost name behind it all. They had taken everything, her space, her privacy, and now her identity. They showed up without warning, no text, no knock, just stood on her front step like nothing had shattered. Lisa opened the door. No smile, no hug. Her mother spoke first. You didn't have to escalate this. We could have handled it as a family. Lisa didn't flinch. I didn't escalate anything. You lied. You used my house, behind my back. Her mother frowned. You weren't using it. You're barely ever home. Lisa took a step forward. That doesn't make it yours. Her father finally chimed in. Your sister needed help. The mortgage, the kids, she's drowning. Lisa's voice dropped to a low, shaking growl. And that gave you permission to ruin me? No one answered. You didn't just invade my home. You broadcast it. You marketed it. You used my name, even if you spelled it backwards. Her mother crossed her arms. You're overreacting. Lisa stared at them, tired, empty. That house wasn't empty. It was mine. Mine to clean, mine to leave messy, mine to lock, mine to breathe in. And you filled it with strangers, candles, blindfolds, lies, and then called it community. Silence. You didn't just cross a line. You built a whole life on the other side of it and left me out of it completely. Her voice cracked. And now you want me to protect you? Pretend it was nothing? Like I don't have to live with this? Her father stepped back. Her mother looked away. And Lisa closed the door. Not with a slam, just a click. Like a sentence ending. Lisa didn't scream. Didn't threaten. Didn't post a viral takedown. She just made 3 phone calls. 1 to the county zoning board, 1 to IRS anonymous tips, and 1 to an attorney specializing in privacy violations. By the end of the week, her house was flagged for zoning violations. No residential property could host private wellness gatherings with paid admission, not without permits, not without fines. The IRS launched an audit. The donations were taxable, the accounts traceable. And one of the guests sued the organizers for being recorded without consent, claimed emotional distress, wanted $75,000 in damages. Lisa didn't lift a finger. She just watched as the dominoes fell. The website went offline, the sacred gatherings vanished, the old hippie friend group gone. No more poetry circles, no more crystal bowls, and her parents spent more time in court than in their own kitchen. The phone rang. Lisa hesitated. It was her sister. She picked up. You ruined everything, the voice on the line snapped. They just wanted to help me. You didn't have to go this far. Lisa didn't raise her voice. Did they ask me? No, but let me ask you something. Silence. Did they ask you? Did you even know what they were doing in my house? Or did they just tell you to smile, stay quiet, and collect the help? Her sister didn't answer. You didn't destroy this, Lisa, the voice finally whispered, but you ended it. Lisa paused. No, I didn't end anything. I just refused to keep it alive. And for the first time, she hung up first. She didn't pack with anger. She didn't cry while folding clothes. She didn't write a dramatic letter and tape it to the fridge. Lisa just packed.
box by box, room by room. She didn't tell her parents, didn't tell her sister, didn't even tell Greg. She called a real estate agent, signed the documents, and handed over the house with no spare key left behind.
For the first time, her name wasn't tied to a mortgage or a memory or a lie someone else crafted in her walls. No more pretending. No more walking into a house that smiled falsely back. She didn't need closure. She didn't need revenge. She just needed a clean door, and one that only she could open. And when she turned the key in her new apartment, she didn't look back. No one came running after her. No one called begging to fix things. There were no tearful reunions. No letters under the door. Lisa didn't expect them, and she didn't need them. She didn't forgive, she didn't forget, but she also didn't linger. She stopped performing, stopped showing up for a role she never auditioned for, the obedient daughter, the forgiving sister, the provider who must never say no. That version of Lisa? Gone. What remained was quiet. Not the hollow silence of abandonment, but the sacred kind, the silence of peace. She no longer had to defend her space, because now it was truly hers. No endings, just exits. Some people said I overreacted. Others said I was too soft, too quiet, too calm. But no one ever asked me what it felt like to watch my home, the one I built, paid for, protected, turned into something I couldn't recognize. A place where people whispered, moaned, drank, and laughed under my roof, on my bed, between the walls that once held my dreams. All without my voice. So I'll ask you, what would you do if your own family used your home for something you could never forgive? Would you stay? Would you cover it up? Or would you walk away? Not for revenge, but for your own peace. Me? I didn't burn the house down. I just turned off the lights and left them in the dark. I changed my locks. I moved cities. I cut ties. People thought I was protecting myself from strangers, creeps, criminals, unknown threats. But here's the truth. I wasn't protecting myself from strangers. I was protecting myself from my family. And somehow that was harder to admit than anything else I'd been through. Because when the people who raised you become the people you fear, you don't just lose trust. You lose the version of yourself who once believed love always meant safety. And maybe, just maybe, the most grown-up thing I ever did was stop calling that place home. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't with enemies, but with the people we once trusted most. This story reminds us that boundaries aren't cruelty, they're clarity, and choosing peace over pleasing others is not selfish, it's survival. If your voice shakes, if your heart aches, but you still walk away from people who cross the line, then you're not breaking the family, you're breaking the cycle. Because home isn't just where you live, it's where you are respected. And no one, not even family, gets to stay if they can't honor that. If this story stayed with you, if it echoed something deep in your past, or gave you the courage to draw your own lines, then this channel is for you. Here, we don't silence pain. We turn it into power. One story at a time. Hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear. You're allowed to walk away, even from family, because your voice matters. And your peace, it's worth protecting.